I know what trending is better than anybody in the world. I've been trending my whole life. From the day I was born, I've been trending.
I like the good publicity and I like the bad publicity. It all plays.
In an unprecedented move, Trump has launched a full-scale diplomatic and economic assault on Colombia over deported migrants. The catalyst? Colombia's refusal to accept two U.S. military planes carrying Colombian deportees, a stance that President Gustavo Petro has described as one of dignity. So where does this leave Colombia? Will Petro stand firm, or will he buckle under pressure? And more importantly, what does this moment tell us about the future of U.S. relations with its allies? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. In January 2025, diplomatic standoff between the U.S. and Colombia reached a boiling point. Two U.S. military planes carrying deported Colombian nationals were about to land on Colombian soil. But in a dramatic move that sent shockwaves through the international community, Colombian President Gustavo Petro refused them entry, stating unequivocally that he would only accept his citizens with dignity on civilian flights. Petro's refusal wasn't just about the logistics of deportation. It was a sharp rebuke to what he saw as the US's growing disregard for international norms and sovereignty. Colombia, a country that had long been a staunch US ally in the region, found itself at the center of a diplomatic storm. The planes typically used for deportation symbolized what many in Colombia and across Latin America viewed as America's heavy-handed approach to immigration, an approach that dehumanizes and criminalizes migrants. By rejecting the military aircraft, Petro wasn't just protesting the way the US handled deportations, he was asserting his country's right to govern its own affairs without foreign interference. But Trump, as expected, wasn't about to back down. In what can only be described as a rapid escalation, President Trump wasted no time in striking back. The US President announced a 25% emergency tariff on all goods imported from Colombia, including the country's most notable exports: coffee, crude oil, and cut flowers. This was a clear message: comply with the United States of America's demands or face the full force of American economic power. The ramifications of this move are monumental. Colombia is the third largest supplier of coffee to the United States and a major exporter of petroleum and flowers. For many American consumers, this could mean higher prices at the checkout line. Coffee aficionados could see their morning brew hit the wallet harder, while florists and oil importers brace for an economic backlash. But Trump wasn't finished. Within a week, the tariff was set to rise to 50%, a dramatic escalation that would cripple Colombia's already fragile economy. In addition to the tariffs, Trump announced a range of punitive measures targeting Colombian officials: a travel ban, visa cancellations, and increased scrutiny of Colombian nationals entering the United States of America. This wasn't just an economic fight. It was a political and a diplomatic strike aimed at weakening Colombia's resolve. Let's talk numbers. In 2022, the total trade volume between US and Colombia reached $53.5 billion. The US enjoyed a trade surplus of around $3.9 billion, with Colombian petroleum exports alone valued at $6 billion. For both nations, the stakes are high.
Colombia is not the main trading partner, the most important trading partner with the United States. However, because of the asymmetries between the two economies, of course, the United States can impose for a short term tariffs on the imports from Colombia, and this is going to be devastating for the country. So it's an instrument to pressure this nation in any single form. And this is also a sign to other countries, particularly a sign to Mexico, because there are more things that the United States were going to negotiate with Mexico, particularly in immigration.
However, Trump's economic assault could have far-reaching consequences. The initial 25% tariff could increase the cost of Colombian exports to the US, with coffee and oil being the most immediately affected commodities. For consumers in the United States of America, that means a hit to their wallets, but also a reminder that global trade is not a one-way street. The tariffs would impact Colombian exporters too, potentially exacerbating economic instability in a nation already grappling with its own domestic challenges. But that's the price of standing up to Trump. What does this mean for U.S. Colombia relations going forward? Historically, the two nations have enjoyed a cordial relationship, with the U.S. offering Colombia billions in aid and military support over the years, particularly in the war against drugs. Colombia has also been a key partner in the U.S.-led initiatives to curb illegal immigration from South America. This partnership was never without its complications, but the two nations were generally aligned in terms of regional security and economic interests. Faced with mounting pressure and the specter of crippling economic sanctions, the Colombian government has capitulated to Trump's demands, agreeing to the unrestricted acceptance of deported Colombian nationals, including those transported on U.S. military aircraft.
El gobierno de Colombia informa que hemos superado el impasse con el gobierno de los Estados Unidos. En este contexto, el canciller Luis Gilberto Murillo y el embajador Daniel García Peña viajarán a la ciudad de Washington en los próximos días para sostener reuniones de alto nivel que den seguimiento a los acuerdos resultado del trabajo conjunto que llevó al intercambio de notas diplomáticas entre los dos gobiernos. Seguiremos recibiendo a los colombianos y a las colombianas que retornen en condición de deportados, garantizándoles las condiciones dignas como ciudadanos sujetos de derechos. El gobierno de Colombia, bajo la directriz del presidente Gustavo Petro, tiene dispuesto el avión presidencial para facilitar el retorno de los connacionales que iban a llegar hoy al país en horas de la mañana en vuelos de deportación. Colombia ratifica que se mantendrán los canales diplomáticos de interlocución para garantizar los derechos, el interés nacional y la dignidad de nuestros.
The agreement announced late on Sunday averted a trade war that could have wreaked havoc on both nations' economies. But it also underscored the hardline tactics that have become a hallmark of Trump's presidency. For Colombia, a nation that initially refused to accept deportees arriving on military planes, this reversal represents a significant climb down. For Trump, it's a victory that sends a message to the world. America's sovereignty is non-negotiable, and resistance to U.S. policies will come at a steep price. This high-stakes diplomatic drama reveals much about Trump administration's approach to foreign policy: transactional, uncompromising, and unapologetically assertive. As the dust settles, the world is left to wonder at what cost does this brand of diplomacy come, and who will be next to face Trump's wrath. This isn't just a fight between two countries. The implications are global. By using tariffs and sanctions to enforce immigration policies, Trump is setting a dangerous precedent that could reshape international relations in the 21st century. What happens if other countries, nations the US needs for trade, security, or diplomatic influence, begin to push back in similar ways? Trump's approach to foreign policy has always been transactional. You're either with us or against us, he seems to say. But as more nations assert their autonomy, this kind of diplomatic bullying could backfire, leading to more isolated, protectionist policies and potentially even a reshuffling of international alliances. Trump's opening attack against Colombia is a stark reminder of the zero-tolerance approach he's bringing to international diplomacy. By using economic leverage to force Colombia into compliance with US immigration policies, he's sending a clear message. The United States will no longer tolerate defiance when it comes to deportations and border control. For Colombia, the agreement may provide temporary relief from the threat of tariffs and sanctions, but it also highlights the country's vulnerability in the face of US pressure. And for the deportees themselves, the resolution offers little solace as their lives remain upended by policies that prioritize politics over people. As Trump celebrates his diplomatic victory, the world watches closely. This is not just a story about two nations. It's a glimpse into the future of U.S. foreign policy under a president who has promised to put America first, no matter the cost. The question now is whether this approach will yield lasting gains or leave a trail of broken alliances and strained relationships in its wake. Thank you for watching Statecraft.